Now the other technique I've developed is using plasticine. So I've got my big ball of plasticine right here, and I took some photocopies of these, I forget what they're called, like kind of like frame by frame motion captures, and then I just adjusted them, Calvin Heinberg's, you know, just in my PowerPoint, just to get the silhouettes. Obviously, shout out to Thomas Gilbert. So I took this photography from the internet, and then I really like Banksy's style. You can see his rats here. And then I came up with this design inspired by Banksy, but obviously with the disc golf flavor. And this is the image of, I felt this one captured the negative space. Like Banksy has this negative space. You see the hand here on the paint bucket. And I picked this image of Thomas Gilbert with the negative space with the hand and the frisbee. It was one of these ones back here. Anyways, you get the idea. So then I drew this just as in my first idea sketch of a rat with the negative space. And then I got into Microsoft Paint. I'll show you what I did there. I'm going to pause and I'll be back. Okay, so I just put these in PowerPoint files. There's the Banksy, and then there's the original Thomas Gilbert file, and started building like an image like this just by cropping, cutting, rotating out of all these things here. Like you can see all the bits and pieces I picked up. Started with this, obviously, got some more off the internet, and then finally settled on something like this. And then kind of transferred that to Microsoft Paint, and then adjusted stuff like just with the painting tool. I've sent it off to a cookie cutter, like a 3D printing cookie cutter, so that I can repeat this image using a cookie cutter on the plasticine on the discs. And then, but for now, what I've done is just trace this, put a paper on here, trace this onto paper, and then we'll show you the next technique to do with the plasticine. Okay, so here's just a piece of paper I traced like directly off my computer of my image, and then we need to basically form this into a kind of well that it seals the disc off more or less, and then it does stain it a little bit as the plasticine acquires dye. It's not totally impermeable, but it does work like 90% to seal the disc off. And so now I got to build the well, which, you know, is a great workout for your grip strength, taking this cold plasticine and trying to get it to malleable, and we'll show you how we do that in a second. So I got to work this for a bit, roll it into a tube, and I'll show you what I do next. Okay, so I've got my ball of plasticine. Gonna roll it out into a circle that can start the well. This part, like, honestly, like, obviously people have like Cricut cutters, and we'll just send the image to the Cricut cutter and make us like a sticker decal that they can just stick on the disc and dye from there. But I don't have a Cricut cutter, and I really like working with my hands. I love the kind of therapeutic aspect to this art. You know, disc golf is obviously, grip is is primary to everything you do at the disc golf, and being able to work with the plasticine helps to, I don't know, I just enjoy this part of it. It gets my hands moving in different ways and building that strength. So here we go, we sort of start with like a massive, I don't know, dildo if you will, plasticine, and then we'll roll that out and make a nice tube and then attach it to the disc and go from there. Okay, so I've rolled it out quite a bit here. It's just pretty long. Now I'm just going to check and see, is it going to cover the plate of the disc? So I can see it's not quite there. I'm going to roll it out a little bit more. Okay, so you can see the plasticine tube basically covers the plate of the disc, and now I don't know if you can see that, but basically I'm going to attach the two ends, and this part you really got to make sure that they are well mixed at the attachment, otherwise the die really tends to find any gaps it'll run through. So I'm really kind of incorporating the two ends into each other here to make sure that joint is sealed. So I'm going to put that down there like so, just roughly around, and we're just going to attach it, and basically you just pinch the ends on, just go around like this, yeah, and just sort of pinch that down and start bonding it to the disc. And this part is probably, this is the part that is probably the most, you can see it sliding around there, so you got to really take your time with this part to make sure that the plasticine is sealed. I'm holding it up so it's sliding off there, so I gotta press it down like this to make sure that the yeah, we got like a good bond. So I've gone around once now on both ends. This is not done. I have to go around again and kind of seal off that little lip there to really seal up the well. And then obviously the way we do this is we got to really just smear the edge. Sorry, I'm not showing you, but you can see I'm really smearing the edge to create that seal. So just go around, smear it down, and that should slowly create a perfect seal for the die. Okay, so we have smeared it down here on obviously the outside and the inside, and the next step will be to kind of keep smearing it till it covers the entire plate here, so that I can carve out my image and also clean up the sides. Okay, so I've got it smeared over the disc. Obviously lifted up in some places. I gotta fix that. But that's easy. And then obviously making this, smear this everywhere, and try and make it like more or less an even thickness, and we'll go from there. Obviously we got to check and see how wide is the well? Is it wide enough for this paper? It's not, so I gotta widen it a bit. Now this is probably a bit ambitious in terms of diameter, because the disc, as you know, curves down on the side, so the die wants to run downhill. So having a smaller image would have been easier, because all of it stays on the flat part of the disc. But we'll work this. Probably end up cutting this image actually. I don't need all that white space on the outside. Image out so it fits easier inside, and I'm just trying to lay it flat down into the plasticine. And then we'll show you what we do after that, which involves basically, you know, smearing over the edges like that to hold the image down using the plasticine. Okay, so I got the image more or less flat now on the disc, and you can see the plasticine is used to hold it in place. So we can start the cutting process, and then I also have to go around and repair again the seal, but I'll do that. I'll double check that before we dye it. Alright, so we're starting to make the well now. You can see it's built up a nice wall to hold the dye in, and I am going around and smearing the edge to make sure that seal is good. So there's a press down there, and I'll just smear that edge, and then I'll clean up all the sides in a second. Okay, so we've got this pretty well sealed on the side. Now the next step would be kind of cleaning up that edge, because the plasticine actually does absorb some of the dye. So when you put the plasticine back, like if you've used plasticine before and then you're going to reuse plasticine that already has dye in it. Here's a disc I made for my daughter. You can see this kind of marbling effect that happens. You see this marbling here. This is just from plasticine that has been used for dyeing before, and so just sitting on the disc will slightly dye the disc, which is, you know, unfortunate, but also it makes for a nice kind of happy accident. So what I'm going to do here is use my favorite tool, which is from my daughter's scratch pad. I don't know if you know the scratch pads. And basically I'm going to use this tool and just kind of go around here. You see I just made that cut there. I'm doing it one-handed, so it's not very good. But basically just going around here, and I got to actually use different circles or bowls or whatnot to kind of make that edge, and then just kind of clean up. So there will be hopefully a nice marbled rim with a clean edge that I'm going to cut out right now just by removing the plasticine. Okay, so trying to make it look good. So I got a bowl I'm just going to use to put over. That's going to hopefully make that clean edge I want all the way around even. You can see I got to peel this off, but we'll show you in a second. So I got the bowl pretty well centered around, and all I got to do here is just kind of run my knife around the edge and just slice off the plasticine that I don't want. And I've started my little ball collecting extra plasticine in case I need to fill a gap or do anything. I can do that. Sealing off, or not sealing, but like cutting away here, going around this, does two things. First, it's going to make a nice clean line so that that marbling effect stays within a clear, bold line. And then the other thing it does actually give another layer of sealing along the edge as the knife gets dragged around. So I'm going to just take off the last remaining plasticine. It's too hard to get off with a knife, like it's just too finicky. So I'm just going to use a little sponge and just scrape off the last bit. Okay, so we got a nice clean edge here. It's not going, the dye is not going to, obviously, the reason why it takes so long with this part is you don't want to leak, because, you know, once you put the dye in the well, you'll know if your well is good. If the dye starts running out, you know you got a leak somewhere, and then that's just going to make a mess of your disc. So it is a little high stakes, but just take your time building that seal and cleaning it up, and hopefully that should be good. Okay, now comes a bit of a painstaking part, but it's all fun. I mean, all this technique is low tech. You can do this around the campfire, you can do this camping, and so basically involves, I need to cut out this image of the plasticine. So before I do that, I use this toothpick and I just go around the paper and just poke holes on the line. So you can't see, sorry, I'm not showing you very well, but basically you poke holes on the lines, you just go around, and it's never going to be perfect. I mean, this is 1, 2, 3 different transfers, so your image is going to slowly erode over time, but once you get cutting with the tool, you're allowed to customize. It is a one-of, so everything's done by hand, everything is unique, and you get obviously the value artistically of doing things slowly, doing things with your hands, and not worrying too much if it doesn't come out perfect. And there we go. So I'm just going to go around here and make these holes. After that, we will remove the paper and start cutting our image. Okay, there, I've punctured the paper with holes, just following the lines, and now we just got to remove the paper and connect the dots with the knife. There we go. And you can see our image is on there. Now comes the fun part where we just get to sit and carve out what we want to see. Now obviously the advantage here, I love working with linoleum, but anyone who's worked with linoleum knows if you make a wrong cut, you're sort of screwed. Whereas with this, because the plasticine, if I make a wrong cut, I can just smear it over and recut it the way I want. So it's a lot more friendly for, you know, cutting the image exactly the way you want. Okay, so I'm about to start cutting now. I'm taking a step back because obviously the plasticine will kind of lift off sometimes, and then you have to kind of reseal it and redo it. So I'm looking at this image here, and I want to start with the most important, most detailed parts. So for me, this hand and disc and then the face are the most detailed and important parts of the image. So this disc has to be plasticine if I want this to be like sort of white, or the negative space, and then everything that's shaded needs to be cut out. So I'm going to probably start my first line around here, make sure I get the detail of the hand here cut out, and then work up here. The reason I do this is because if you start cutting out the detailed stuff later, while you've already got some cuts on the sides, there's less plasticine holding it down. So do the detailed stuff first, and then after that, then go around and do the easy stuff. That's just like sort of less intricate, and yeah, that's my strategy here. Cuts. Yeah, I started my cuts here. I'm gonna try and get this in view so you can see what I'm doing, but basically I've got this little edge of the disc. I'm going to cut that out like that. And then you can hopefully just lift it off, peel it out, and that's the little shadow of the rim started. Okay, so at this point I've more or less just gone around the outside of my image, and now I'm going to start removing the easy areas. Actually, I'm going to start with the easy areas first, and well, actually no, I'm going to start with the edge, basically the edge of the hard areas first. So get this disc cut out properly, and then all this is coming off. And you can see it just peels off nice. Obviously little bits you gotta work the edges to make it, you know, before you dye, but you get the big parts off first, like that, and go from there. So obviously as you lift off the image, you're gonna get parts like this right here that just actually lift off on their own, and what you got to do is just smear it back down with your finger and then just recut it the way you want, and then it makes a nice clean edge there. Smear it down one more time there, and then when you put the dye on, you get that nice clean edge where the tail connects sort of to the back here. So sometimes over the detailed areas you gotta press down what you want, like in this case it's the disc, and just kind of redo the edge just to make sure that you get that clean edge on your most important parts. Now the other trick you can do, like you can see the eyes of the drawing and then the eyes of the cutout is, I've lost them, they're just too detailed. So what I do is sometimes just like make a little ball and just stick that where the eye is supposed to be, and then I can cut out where it's, you know, that little detail that I need. So you can always add more plasticine and cut it away as you need to get that detail. And obviously I'm trying to get this eye here, but now I have to switch to a different tool, which is just back to the toothpick to get the detail that I need. Obviously a way to check your image is just hold it up to the sun and you can see what it's going to be. So I got some more work to do on the lines here. Okay, so there's the image, there's the cutout. Obviously you can take as long as you want with this. This is the fun part, you just enjoy it. But I'm going to throw the dye in there. I'm happy with what I've got so far. I think it's going to be more or less what we wanted. Obviously got to clean up a little bit of this sticky plasticine here, but we'll put the dye in now. So the dye I'm using is obviously simple. You can buy it at Walmart, buy it at Michael's. Make sure you get the synthetic so it penetrates the plastic. And I'm going to put a little bit in here and some hot water that activates the dye. And one of the advantages of doing this inkwell method is you only need a little bit of dye because it just sits in there and all the dye is going into the one place you want. So you don't got to like fill up a bowl or a tub, put your whole disc in this dye. Like you don't have to use a lot of dye at all. And I'll show you in a sec. Make sure you shake these guys a lot. Really shake them up before you put them in your tube and then the hot water. Just because the pigment, I think, settles. It's like a granular kind of thing. It settles. So you got to shake this up a lot. Okay, shaking it up a little bit, and I'm just going to pour a little bit in here. I don't really worry about the measurement. That's good. And now we got to run some hot water. Make sure it's as hot as the tap will allow. Put the hot water in there, shake that, and then start the dyeing. So I actually put too much dye in, so I can't get this very hot. So what I'm going to do is just fill it up. I'm just going to run it. Just run it on the hot water, just heat it up. Okay, now we're adding the dye, which is easy part. And one of the things I love about this artwork is you don't know, like when you draw a picture, you make a line, you see what you've done immediately. This form of art, you need 6 hours at least before you get to see the fruits of your labor. So it creates a kind of Christmas morning situation where, you know, you get to peel off the plasticine. Well, we got to rinse the dye off first, but then you got to peel off the plasticine there, and you can see that my well is good. Lots of space between the edge and the well. Nothing's leaking out, nothing's running, well, that I know of. We'll see. That's the thing, we won't know exactly. And usually what I do is just take a paintbrush and just you know, go around and just make sure all the edges are filling in. They will. I mean, that dye will find any imperfection. And so we'll just let that sit there for a while, and then we'll peel it off and see the results. Welcome to lithography, or I should say lewthography. Okay, so we're back home. Oh, nice shot. Ladies are tossing. We got to take the dye out. And what I like to do is just, I don't know if you can see there, but yeah, I just like suck it out with this. Ideally, I haven't used this in a while, it's not working. Anyway, I like to save all my dye and use it again. This thing is not sucking very well right now, but it sucks. Yeah, so that's just a step I do. And now the fun part, we get to wash off the dye and see what we got. Can't really see, it's a little dark right now, but it's looking pretty good. Nice and dark. And then this one obviously is looking terrible, but that's what experiments are for. Sometimes they don't look perfect. I'll bring them in the light and peel them off. It's this rinsed off here. Now this one's going to look pretty good. I'm going to peel it off to show, but this would be also a time I could carve again. I could smear over this, add another color, could add a border. Let's just check it out. So now we just get to peel this off, and yeah, we just take away all the plasticine. You can see the hand, see how his face turned off. Pretty good looking so far. I'll peel it all off and then we'll show you. Here, let me take a big chunk of plasticine off here. All this work, would probably want to use this well again for more detail, but I'm just going to show you guys. This is so fun. I love this part because you get to just see how we did with everything. Okay, well, here's the finished image. Happy with it. Next step, I've actually liked this image quite a bit just because I created it. I'm going to order a 3D printed cookie cutter so I can replicate this one a little bit. All cleaned up, ready for maybe a border. And there you go. Thanks for watching my channel, the video. And I think this is where I say like, subscribe, criticize, comments are open. Shout out to all the peeps out there in disc golf, making courses, running leagues. We appreciate you.